If you know anything about 90s music, of course you know who this is. This is Jagged Edge. And they're one of the many groups that sang the love songs and the ballads, if you will, of the late 80s, early 90s. I'm singling out this group for one particular reason, because back in the day, I was a big fan of love songs. And I guess to a certain extent I am now, but they don't hit the same way because of, well, various reasons. But they have one particular song, which I think is possibly the worst love song / blue pill song ever made. And that song is Let's Get Married. And the reason why, and I don't hate the group, I just hate whoever wrote this lyric. I don't know what they were thinking. Meet me at the altar in your white dress. We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. Does that sound like a love lyric to you? And of course, this is back in the days where, you know, if you want to talk about blue pill, if you will, this was blue pill heavy. I guess you could say this is back in the days when you could actually be lazy and a blue pill still worked. A lot of our conversation is focused on dating in the West and particularly America. I'm not exactly sure if you consider Japan the West or not, because in ways it's Western, in ways it's not. But what this chart says is that a lot of the issues facing Western dating are being reciprocated in many places around the world. This is a chart that comes from a survey of people in their 20s and 30s in Japan. And they're asked simply, do you want to get married in the future? And you can see the EA part, which is blue, says 39%. And the orange part saying hi or yes says 61%. Which means 2 out of every 5 people in their 20s and 30s in Japan don't ever want to get married. It's not just an American Western dating issue.
結婚したいって思いますか？結婚したくないですか？あらあら。なんか理由がありますか？
お父さんがめちゃクズなんですけど、本当にクズだから、結婚とかに興味がなくて、うちにも死ぬまで同じ人とずっと一緒にいたかったんですけど、でもやっぱりうちも浮気しちゃいますので。
お姉さんは浮気しちゃう？
しちゃいますね。
彼氏ができても。
彼氏ができても。
男が好きですか？
当たり前です。
当たり前です。
This chart is for mapping the answers of people who said they did not want to get married as to why they said so. And so the top 2 reasons why: 1, I want to spend my money freely. 2, I want to spend my time freely. Both of those answers are above 30%, which of course means that people are afraid of changing their lifestyles in terms of the freedom that they have for trying to, you know, have a wife and family. And then the third one is, I translate it as I don't want to take care of another person, but it's more like, I know there's a lot of emotional labor in being with someone, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to expend that amount of energy. So that's a long translation, but it's not as sharp as I don't want to take care of another person. It's more, I know that that's a lot of work. And you can see that's above 25, so more than 1 in 4. The 4th reason, there's no one in my vicinity that I want to marry. And that's right at 25%. So it's 1 in 4 people who say that there's no one marriageable in their immediate vicinity. 5th, I don't want to have to put up with in-laws, which, I mean, that's 22%-ish. 5th from the right. And I guess that's understandable wherever you are, because in-laws are not easy. And then the last 2, work and hobbies are more important, which if you're really involved in work and you don't want to take a break from work for, I don't know, pregnancy or even a honeymoon, that's an issue. And the last one is, I'm not sure I make enough money to support a family. And I would imagine that was a good number of men probably answered this particular one, but it's a recurring theme for especially younger people, because if you're working a job where you might just be making enough money to get by, if you have a hiccup or two, that means instability, and that is something that people are have a lot of fear about, especially in today's economy.
自分にお金を使いたいのと、その結婚とかしたら 一緒に暮らして一緒のベッドで寝るとかがちょっと無理かな。なんかそうやって頼って生きてたらいつか捨てられるんですよ。絶対に一人の方が楽かなみたいな。
If you look at the red caption, it says, if I were to get married and depend on my husband's income, if we get a divorce, then I would be in a very difficult position. And so you hear the young ladies, they're talking about how what's important to them is their freedom and their free time, and they can do what they want, and they can live a life that is comfortable to them. And there were 3 comments that stuck out to me, so I'll let you see them. The first one says, できれば結婚したくない。If I can do it, I don't want to get married. 家では一人でゴロゴロして好きなことを自由に楽にやりたい。So I want to be at home and just kind of relax and be free to do the things that are fun for me. And you see that's 1,000 likes there. In the second comment, you can see it says, 結婚するメリットなんだろう? I asked my parents, what are the merits of marriage? And 親にはメリットなんて考える結婚するもんじゃないよ. Like, don't think of marriage in terms of merits and demerits. But if I'm going to start my second part of life, you got to give me more than that. I can't believe that I'm supposed to believe it as just going to work. I need more information than that. And you see a lot of people said, yeah, I agree with that. And the third comment is 25から45までの人生子育てに費やせる自信がない. So I don't know if I will have the money to afford raising a child between 25 and 45. Although I have my issues with Jagged Edge in terms of the lyrics of their song where they say, we're not getting no younger, we might as well do this. 112 is a representation of how Black men, African-American men are socialized, how we are socialized. We're socialized to not only be emotionally available, we're taught to be romantic, we're taught to help around the house. We're also taught to be able to cook and clean and do things that will alleviate issues for our women, on top of the fact that we're expected to pay for everything and that the woman's money is 100% her own. So if you go back to some of the things that were making people reluctant to get married, the first one was, I want to spend my money freely. And so we know from our situation as Black men, that's not an issue for us, because look at how much dust is getting raised about Gabrielle Union saying she goes 50-50 in her household. The idea of going 50-50 is causing all of this dust in this conversation right now. And that's just something we accept as not the norm. This is an outlier, 50-50. Taking care of all the bills for guys who are responsible stand-up guys, you might call us educated lames or blue-collar brothers or whatever, paying all the bills is not a big deal at all. The second one is you want to have free time, right? And so if you think about most of the relationships that Black men, African men are in, we don't have a lot of control over the freedom of movement and the whereabouts and how much our significant others are doing with their free time. As a matter of fact, we're taught to do the other way, where we are more acquiescent to giving our significant others freedom so they can still, quote unquote, be themselves and have their space while we're still married inside the relationship. And the fourth one is there's no one you want to marry. And this is a Passport Brothers issue. If you think about Black men, we haven't really had the freedom to date out for very long. We're talking at most 2.5 generations. If Black men with these special attributes finally have the opportunity to go around and poke their nose around in other areas, we're going to see that we have attributes that other people simply haven't seen, haven't encountered, and it's going to answer this question for some women. One of the things that's a motivator for me to make content for this channel and to get my message out is that I have a sincere belief that there's a segment of the Black male community of men who are socially awkward, who are educated lames, who are passed over or looked over blue collar guys, men who are decent men but don't have swag, or they're into comic books, or they're geeky, or things that just weren't the primary selectors for us in our communities. And so if you think about the kind of things that we're socialized to do, they actually give us a leg up because we're competing in a market where you're expected to have swag and make $100,000 a year and help around the house and do a host of things that is something that's only required in our select dating market. And of course, there's certain men that are exempt from these requirements, but for the men that are getting passed over, you are the same as, well, if you've ever seen a ruby that's unpolished, this is the before. What happens in the after when someone sees you and says, this man makes a lot of money and he's responsible and he's devoted only to me and he is a stand-up guy who is devoted to his children. Maybe he's not the most swagalicious guy in America, but for me, he's an unpolished gem. There's a woman out there who has never experienced a man like us. Men that help with the kids and work 2 jobs and gives her free time and gives her money for no reason. And we've been taught that this is all simp behavior, but what happens if you're with someone who truly appreciates it and reciprocates? Then you're just in a healthy relationship. And the funny thing about all of this is, because men who are looked over, passed over in the Black community are basically trying to bat in the major leagues. When you go overseas, you're essentially playing in an easier league because we've been competing in the hardest league to find a mate. And who have we been trained by? Black women. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care, guys.